Hello Pisces, and welcome to your monthly horoscope for January 2023 for the Sun or the Ascendant. Going to give you some broad strands to look out for, but please stay with me. I will dive deep as ever to give you in forensic detail all the key influences and dates particularly relevant to your sign. So as we come into the new year, we need to look at where the core planets are. So that's the Sun and also Mercury in House 11, the sign of Capricorn. House 11, very much about the future, but Mercury is in retrograde. So this suggests you could be rethinking some of your longer term plans as year 2023 dawns. Now, Mercury retrograde can be a very positive thing if we choose to embrace its opportunity to rethink, recalibrate and revise. So maybe something that you had thought was very important, perhaps even in terms of your ideals, could be not necessarily in a state of flux, but certainly shifting or has the potential to evolve. And talking about evolution, Pluto is joined by Venus at the start of this year, and I think your friendship circle could go through some big changes in 23, but it can be enriched by a new player or perhaps a new romantic interest. Now, the other thing that we need to look at, of course, is the role of your two rulers. Neptune's in a semi-sextile with Saturn all through this month. That aspect a little bit tougher for you because Saturn is still entrenched in a very psychological area which has been very wearing over the last 2 years, particularly in that right angle with Uranus, which stays in retrograde this month through to the 22nd, but at least they are free of aggravating each other. So Neptune is very much about your ability to feel your more sensory instincts, but that needs to be linked together with perhaps dealing with some harsh lessons that you've experienced about the past, about feeling separate from people. So if you are doing some deep work, therapy work for example, this aspect will really be helpful. But also Jupiter, of course, is your traditional ruler, and that's in House 2 as this year begins. It was in your sign through to the 20th of December, but since then there's been the potential for your finances to look brighter than perhaps the prevailing mood is for other people. And also Venus, the other planet to do with money, forges a very positive link with Jupiter in the first week of this month, and a semi-sextile with Jupiter later in the month, and Jupiter also is blessed with a great relationship with the Sun later this month. So much exciting stuff to tell you about. Please stay with me for that. But if you would like to understand what this year will hold for you personally and ascending above this zodiac broadcast, if you give me 3 pieces of birth data of time, date and place of birth, I can give you your forecast for the year. If you order it at the end of year 2022, you get the rest of that year free. But also my special package of 30% off, you will get your life roadmap, your character analysis, which can help you to understand some repetitive patterns that may have come up in your situation, but it can also help you to seize opportunities with greater conviction. I will also, in my package, give you your 12 zodiac sign written forecast for each of the signs, which gives you something to go back to as we go through this new year. Please see the link below for more. Also, if you're new to my channel, thank you for joining me. Please click and tap on the bell notification symbol if you'd like to become a subscriber. For all ongoing subscribers, thank you so much for your support. So Pisces, as you come into year 2023 and January, so the Sun, Mercury, Venus and Pluto all in your 11th house. This is very much to do with your network. So if there has been perhaps a lack of communication with someone who's important to you over the festive period, this could be something that's playing very much on your mind. And also because Venus is so closely allied to Pluto, Pluto is, of course, the planet of change, but it can also be the planet which is linked to endings. It can be the planet of life and death. So Venus being in your 11th house and Mercury in retrograde, if you feel that someone hasn't really been working at it as much as they should, this can really affect you very deeply. Venus then moves on the 3rd into your 12th house. When this happens, we can go into a very reflective mode when it comes to our relationships. But this needs to coexist with another part of your nature, which needs to plan for the future. And from the 3rd through to the 9th, the Sun's actually forging an amazing link with Uranus. And you could actually have some dazzling conversations with people, but they may be much more intellectual. If you are someone who's very much interested in technology and you got a new piece of kit over the holidays, the chances are that you'll be really enjoying it through this period of time. But more seriously, Venus in the 12th house can be a time of separations with relationships that aren't working well. And ironically, Venus links up with Saturn, and Saturn's more limiting energy, on the new moon of the 21st, exactly. So at that time, as much as that's an opportunity for you to really get in touch with your deeper needs and understand, your psychological and emotional and spiritual dimension that much more, equally, Venus being aligned with Saturn could make you hyper conscious of someone who's not really getting some of the more sensitive energies that are around you during the early part of this month. And all the potential to discuss this comes to a boil on the full moon of the 6th in the sign of Cancer. The moon rules the sign of Cancer, so it's in its dignity, but Mercury in that retrograde is aligned with the Sun in opposition to the moon. So finding a balance between our logic, Mercury in the Sun, 11th house, future, friendships, association, network, with where you're wanting to be more passionate, playful and demonstrative, where the moon is, well, Uranus is actually forging a very positive link with both positions, both the moon and the Sun and Mercury. But that creates a lot of electricity. And I think one of the things that electricity can generate is a need for a little bit of space or detachment to sort of draw back from situations and get a clearer overview of where you stand. So as much as there can be buzzy, delightful, sociable interactions, really I feel that Venus, and because of its conjunction with Pluto in the early part, right at the start of the year in Capricorn, in your sector of the future, but Venus moving into your 12th house, is really going to see you become increasingly conscious and thoughtful about who is really worthy of your attention and your affection. Now on the 12th, Mars, which has been twisting backwards since the 30th of October in your sector of home, and in a heck of a tangle with Neptune, your co-ruler, all through October, November, first week of December, which may have seen you right out of sorts around some very tender issues, emotional issues, perhaps to do with the family, perhaps even where to live. But Mars goes direct, and that's good because at least it gives you more impulse, more desire. Still, the 4th house is not Mars's best position, can make you a bit defensive, but less so than the retrograde. If you have been feeling angry about a family or emotional matter, since the end of October, Mars's retrograde could well be a lot to do with it. But because Neptune was in a right angle, you may have had so little energy, neat vitality to deal with issues that they may have just seemed to have overwhelmed you and perhaps even left you feeling totally wrung out. But on the 18th, Mercury also goes direct. You're going to hear from someone. Whether you hear from them in a way that you're satisfied with or not is another matter. Also from the 12th through to the 16th, there could be some gossip doing the rounds, or you may see something on social media and think, oh yeah, so you all got together, why wasn't I included? That kind of stuff. Venus squaring Uranus, a sudden piece of information. Someone could share something with you that you find a bit startling. Just be aware of what their motive may be, however. But then on the 20th, the Sun arrives in Aquarius, returning to this sign for the first time in 11 months. But the new moon on the 21st aligns with Pluto for the first time in about 2,500 years, about 250 years. And on the same day, Venus goes into that conjunction with Saturn. So this is going to give you a lot of support around some of the things that you felt really embattled with over the last couple of years. There's been some very harsh lessons, I feel, about who you can really trust and rely upon. There may have been a sense that people have withdrawn from you in almost a cruel way at times. Not a conversation, not even an argument or discussion, just a total cold detachment. Or have you inflicted that on someone yourself, if you're really honest? Perhaps partly because you've just felt you've got nothing left to give. You're one of the most compassionate signs of all. When you're in, you're so in, but sometimes you're so in, you give so much, you don't have your boundaries well defined, and then you feel totally used and abused. So I think this is a seminal new moon for your whole life. It also forges a great link, a really great link with your traditional ruler Jupiter. And weirdly, something that you have been very sacrificing around, very giving, very caring, can see a dividend emerge. It could happen straight away. Maybe it's going to happen over the following 3 or 4 weeks. Uranus goes direct on the 22nd. We'll all take that. For you, it's been affecting your nervous system hugely since 2018 for 5 months. And then since March the 9th, 2019 through to now. So in lots of positive ways, your imagination and your creativity could have been astonishing at times. But also it may have seen you sort of overstimulated, sort of too much adrenaline, too much cortisol washing around your system. Hard to sort of let your shoulders come down and take a breath. So Uranus going direct is welcome. But on the 27th, perhaps one of the highlights of this whole month, because Venus arrives in your sign. And Venus loves being in your sign. It's exalted here. And it also forges a semi-sextile, which I mentioned before, with your traditional ruler of Jupiter. So something about the way you are can draw something very lovely your way. Could be a nice compliment. It could be someone's generous gesture. It could be a romantic overture. It will be very sweet at that point. But also Mars, which was going through that turgid retrograde through to the 12th and challenged hugely by Neptune through October, November, the first week of December. Well, that forges the most incredibly motivational link with the Sun in the last week. But this is very personal stuff. So if there is something you want to change about where you live and your options have felt very limited, we all know that the cost of borrowing, the cost of renting has been horrendously heightened by interest rate increases, and that has limited a lot of people's options. But you're going to get your drive back to really take on the prevailing reality of the financial environment, and just your sheer determination to move forwards is going to be quite astonishing as this month draws to a close. But I feel your romantic soul searching, or perhaps relationship soul searching, is not at an end, because you've still got Saturn in your 12th house, and you've got that 12th house new moon, which is the hardest new moon of each cycle for as a solar sign. But what you have got is Venus moving into your sign. So if you need to reassert how you dress, how you have your hair cut, your interests, your appreciation of art, and anything to do with fashion are all emphasized in a very, very lovely way as this month comes to a close, and you're just going to have a lot more get-go. And so even if you're working on some deeply personal issues, you're going to feel much more equal to the challenge. But remember, at the start of this year, Venus aligns with Pluto. So there's going to be a big transformation around your friendship group, your circle, or perhaps individual relationships, and that could include someone very lovely entering your world this month or through 2023. It's been a real pleasure being with you, Pisces. Thank you so much for joining me. God bless and goodbye.